Amanda Malson. Welcome to the Curious Community Podcast with your host, moi, Carrie. I'm so stoked to have you here. I'm so glad we got to talk a little bit before because I found out even more about you. And that's why I'm having this podcast, is because I just want to find out more about cool people. It's really selfish. Like, that's all I want to do. I don't care if anyone listens.
Yeah,
I mean, they will.
Amazing.
But I just wanted to, like, my why is really like, I want to talk to cool people who I admire that are doing cool things, whatever it is, and like learn more about them and their process and what makes them tick. Because that to me is like super interesting. And like, that's my favorite thing to do. So this is like the world's most expensive and detailed hobby, but it's fine. And we're here.
That's amazing.
Yeah. So thank you.
Thank you for having me.
I'm so stoked. I've known you for a long time, but for people who don't know you yet, which is probably nobody, but just in case there's a couple people that don't know you, you founded Common Standard in 2017?
Yeah, between 2017 and 2018.
Okay,
We're
all right.
about 6.5 years old.
Oh my gosh, that's great.
I know, already. Can you believe it?
No, but yes, because I feel
were
like
at the beginning.
I know, it's crazy because I feel like your influence, not only in like our communities, but beyond, from like a creating immersive environments aspect is so, to me, pervasive that like I forget that you haven't always, like, you didn't spring out of your mom's womb like doing this, like, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
I mean, you practically did. We're going to talk about that.
Yeah.
But so Common Standard creates immersive environments for, you do a little bit of residential, but not much. It's really about commercial. And when we say that, it doesn't sound as sexy as it truly is. And the way you're sexing stuff up is next level. You're doing interiors and I think exteriors probably too, but for, you know, what they call commercial real estate, which is like retail environments, like medical, office, hospitality, which includes like hotels, restaurants, bars. So it really runs the gamut.
It does,
and commercial doesn't really do it justice.
No, it doesn't. Yeah.
You at Common Standard are creating these like immersive, experiential, like happy place environments. Like I experience them pretty much daily. So like Lido Marina Village, that at the time you were working with Steve Jones, you guys were Better Shelter.
Yes.
You totally redeveloped that and made it like, now of course it has to be crazy how popular this place has gotten.
It's popular, yes.
Yeah. Because I really think that in that case, you know, the design has driven the tenants that like, right? So it's like, the design drives the tenants, and then that drives in tune, you know, and further drives like the shopper and the diner and the people that want to experience it.
Yes.
And you created all these really magical moments within that environment that growing up, I remember was like just the place I went for like expensive magazines, like British Vogue or like some Italian, like, you know, GQ, because my cousin was in it. And I remember like it didn't feel special down there. I mean, the magazines felt special, but not the environment. And the fact, like, it's so wild to look back at what it was, like the warehouse when it was down there and the crazy stuff, to what it is now. And I think that's like an early example of your work in this space and like a really amazing example. But the other kind of daily stop I'm thinking about is Coffee Dose or Microdose. And I feel like when you walk into a Coffee Dose, you just get the vibe. Like you've created.
Yeah, it's completely immersive design for sure. Yeah. And we're lucky to have been working with Jenny and Oscar of Coffee Dose. They're amazing clients, and they're willing to push the boundaries with us, and I'm willing to push her too.
I love it.
Into, you know, creating the space that we did create and having that live on and live into this community. It's definitely a destination.
Yes.
And it's intentional.
Yeah, everything's intentional.
Yes.
So I'm going to go back to that, but I think I wanted to give people like a flavor for those who live locally of like these happy places that you've created for us to go on a daily basis.
Sure.
And thank you.
You're welcome.
Because it adds a lot to the community.
Yeah.
We
love being part of this community. And, you know, and I was thinking about it, you know, before, you know, doing my little, you know, study up before coming on here, and that, you know, I've been in this community now for 20 years. Yeah. Which is amazing.
It's a long time.
It's a long time.
Especially because you're only like 22, so it's like insane.
Exactly. It's totally insane. I mean.
You're like 22. Let like have it. But you feel like you're part of this community.
But I feel like I'm part of this community.
You
and
are.
I think because I grew up in such a small town in Kansas, I missed having that for several amount of years.
Yeah.
And now I finally feel like I have it back.
Yes.
I have a really strong community here of friends and
creatives
and, people who I run into at the grocery stores and just like, and you've been a really big part of that. And like,
there's a lot to say for that, right?
There's a lot to say for that. Yeah. And it makes me feel so comfortable.
I love it.
Right. And
I was thinking that.
It.
Yeah. Because I've been thinking like, as I like near kind of, I will never retire, but like, the age where people do, like would I ever live somewhere else? And I just don't know because, it's like there are other beautiful places to live, but like when you establish a community, it's like that's priceless. And I think you're helping us do that even more with these happy places to go. So like when I will have a friend, I'm going to meet for breakfast at Coffee Dose, like that to me is like, that's part of the community, right? So I feel like I'm in the space. So but you mentioned, obviously you're not in Kansas anymore. We're not in Kansas anymore.
We're not in Kansas anymore.
No. But it's so interesting because from a young age, it sounds like you were creating these types of happy places for you, maybe for friends too. I don't know if they joined you in these tents and other things you created, but tell me a little bit about what it was like growing up with artists as folks, as your parents.
Yeah.
And then like how you started to kind of space plan, like as a kindergartner. Like tell me about like the growing up part and like the beginning of this.
Yeah, I think like what we talked about before is that my parents were both very artistic. My father is an artist still today. He works in every medium, and he's worked in lots of mediums. I guess whenever I was a kid, he was working in jewelry design, and he was working in woodworking, and
so like metal and woodwork,
and woodwork, and different things. And so he was doing jewelry design, and they were making buckles and bracelets and rings and different things. And then he was making the cases to then go out to fairs and.
To market.
To markets and to different things. And so he was building all of these.
The displays and everything?
The displays and everything, yeah. And so I think that being a kid of two creative people, they just kept me busy with projects.
I love it.
And so...
Were you like a tiny metal worker?
Well, I think that when you're handling wood or you're handling paint or you're handling ceramics or you're handling metals or whatever, that's a tactile thing. And so you learn how those things feel, how they react, how you
interact,
how you build with them, like how things are in the 3D world.
So like instead of Lego, you were doing this maybe to learn that 3D thing.
Yeah, because I didn't have any Legos when my sister had Legos, but I didn't have Legos.
Yeah, she came along later. She had Legos. You had hammering nails for projects or painting nails.
A garden hose and some mud pies and some commercial
kind of as it should be,
appliance boxes.
Yeah.
So one of the major projects that was an influence in my mind is that my mom would bring home appliance boxes.
The best.
Refrigerator boxes, stove boxes,
huge.
All these like different big boxes, and then I would then arrange them out in the yard, cut windows and doors in them, and then arrange all my dolls in them. I would have a bathroom, I would have a kitchen, I would have a bedroom, I would have all these things. I made my own bathroom with my mom's.
Are you serious?
Mixing bowls, but
I like it. Yeah, you're like, hey,
this is my bathroom.
Yeah, don't use this one. Everyone's like, don't worry, Amanda, we're not going to use your bathroom. Trust.
So that was one of the creative things that they did, and then I had lots and lots of clothespin, A-frame. Tents in the backyard.
Rad.
I spent a lot of time outside. We had a huge garden. We grew a lot of food in the backyard, and
so you're playing outside and creating these environments. Would you ever let your friends come in, or was it your space only? No friends can come in.
My friends came. My friends came. My sister came. When she came along, she came in.
Yeah,
to the mix
of course, she
everything.
probably just idolized you. She's 6 years younger, and what are you doing?
Yeah.
Did you were you concerned at all? You were creating spaces to feel happy in, and indulge your imagination and engage your imagination at that age? Were you at all applying any color, or were you concerned about the look of the space, or was it more just creating the spaces?
I think it was more about the organization of the spaces, which is really what I draw from. Still, yes. I'm very technical when it comes to the spaces and space planning the spaces.
Oh, that's awesome.
So I think that came from there, and the organization part of it
came from that, those early beginnings.
I think so, yeah.
That's amazing.
I think so. And I think my grandmother and my mother also were seamstresses and sewers.
Oh.
And so I think that partly there's a technical aspect
Yes,
of sewing.
and that has to be very technical.
But then there's another tactile fabric, beautiful, like
the hand of it. Like, how does it feel?
Yeah.
Like, do we want it for curtains? Or are we going to reupholster a chair? Like, depending on the hand.
Yeah. So I learned about fabric really early on as well.
That's interesting.
And how different fabrics react to different things. So there's this type of fabric, and then there's upholstery, and then there's like a thickness, and there's I think at an early age I learned about
like the fundamentals
of the things that we build with today.
That's wild. And then was it North Texas that you were at? What was the school that you went to for your fine arts and interior design?
University of North Texas.
University of North Texas, close.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So is that like, you obviously got more schooling in that, but I'm assuming that like just for me for school, God bless UCLA, great school, but I didn't really learn anything practical.
Sure.
Like I learned all my practical stuff like on the job, on an internship. So did you start learning more of the kind of interior design, like in situ, like real life stuff, like on the job, like in the Bay Area? Like, is that where you first were?
I would say that in school you learn the fundamentals of design and art history, and they teach you how to do drafting.
Okay. Oh, so you're learning something really practical then?
Yeah. I was in a class. This will date me, but I was in a class that we
no
were
CAD yet.
I was the first CAD class.
Seriously?
The very first CAD class, yes.
Yeah,
and that came about, and so I did half my school was hand drawing on a drafting board, and half of it was in computer aided design.
Is it good though that you learned how to hand draw too? Like, is there something to that like does it matter? Like from a creative standpoint, like do you still sketch?
I don't sketch that much. I design everything inside CAD still today.
Okay.
It's sort of it's methodical, and it's like
that's comfortable for you.
It's comfortable for me to understand the sizes of things and like to sit there and really like think through the 3D aspect of it. I mean, everything is like so much nicer now because we have Revit and we have pop-up 3D and everything's so easy and like.
But it wasn't.
Makes it nice that way.
When you started in the industry, though, you went to the Bay Area, I think, first.
I went to the Bay Area first, yeah.
So, and like during the tech booms, there had to be a lot of really cool, high-budget projects, I would imagine.
Yeah,
maybe.
So I worked for a woman named Jane Antonacci, and she had a studio in Menlo Park next to Palo Alto.
Oh, yeah.
And she
Ground zero.
Yeah. Yes, for all of that tech boom stuff.
Okay.
And a lot of our clients were from the tech boom.
Yeah.
They were, people who were venture capitalists who,
money.
Took a bunch of people public, like Electronic Arts and Yahoo and Netscape, and like they were really in it from ground zero. I do remember, this is a fun story.
Yeah.
I do remember coming home from one meeting, and our clients came and they were like, "Oh, I'm so sorry, we're so late. We just got out of this meeting. We're working with this company. It's called Netflix."
You're like, oh, that's weird.
And I was like, "Oh, it's Netflix," and they're like, "Oh, it's like this company that's gonna like send out movies in the mail,
DVDs."
And I was like, "Oh man, that sounds great."
Yeah, you're like, I don't know, might be something. We don't know, might be
Fast
something
forward
someday.
26 years.
That's crazy.
It's like so those were it was the genesis of all of that stuff.
Yeah.
That I got to be part of.
Were you like nervous jumping in at first? Like, I mean, I know that like you're not solely responsible at the beginning for like a project end to end. I don't think.
Oh, way.
Right.
No.
Were you nervous at all jumping in, like to doing it in quote unquote real life? Like, because it seems kind of emotional. Like, were you doing residential at that time?
We were doing all very,
that seems very emotional
high-end,
to me. Like,
very high end residential.
Was it stressful?
Yeah, I mean,
it seems like it would be.
So, yeah.
It's such a personal thing.
It was stressful to a point because, you're at your first job and you don't know anything.
Yeah,
and you're
you're learning.
Like, I had the wrong clothes. I had the wrong everything. I didn't know how to dress. Like,
yeah, you're like,
it's like,
you don't have the wrong clothes now. I'm just saying. That's a whole different podcast. You have the right clothes at the right time. Like, it's everything.
That's happened to me a few times. Every time I transition jobs, I have the wrong clothes.
Yeah, you're like, start over. So it was stressful because it was a first gig, but nothing more than that. Like, did you still feel like you were doing what you're supposed to be doing? Like,
yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
That must feel good to know from the start.
It did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The Kelly Wersler days.
Yes.
How did that happen?
So there came a point where I needed to move from the Bay Area to Southern California.
Okay.
And I moved down here, and I was looking for a job, any job.
Yeah.
Like, I just need a job.
Okay.
And so that was the time of Monster.com, and people were like
Yes.
reaching out on Monster.com and like looking for jobs. And I had found this job, and I like sent my resume, and whatever. I didn't hear anything back, and for a little while, and then I did get an email, and it said,
Kelly here.
Please respond to KWID, and I was like, sounded like a corporate.
Yeah, you're like,
something.
ew,
I
it
was
sounds
like,
boring.
Whatever. I was in Barnes and Noble, and I found her book, and I opened it up, and it said KWID, and I was like,
No, I'm getting a chill. This is it. This is the shit.
I was like,
you're like, KWID. I love you. I love your work. Oh my God, I'm getting a chill.
I didn't really know her that well. Like, she had the book that came out that was cool and everything.
Yes.
But I didn't know much about her because I was in the Bay Area, and I was just
like a
doing
different thing.
things. But yeah, so I went and I interviewed, and a couple weeks later I got the job
Oh
there.
my God.
But yeah, it was a great. I think the great thing about working for her, well, there's a lot of things, but because I was in such high-end residential, that's one, set of skills
Yes.
that you learn.
But you did commercial with her.
And so then it transitioned, and she's very high-end residential, high-end hospitality. And so
Yes.
her hospitality feels more residential.
Totally.
Right.
Which is the genius of it.
Which is the genius of it, yeah. And so that was a good bridge from being high-end into the hotel world.
That's
which I really
awesome.
love.
What was the project that you mentioned was it something in China, or was that later? What did you do with Kelly? What was the kind of one of the marquee projects that you did with her? It was downtown LA.
Yeah, so we did 2 apartment buildings downtown LA,
Okay.
the Hollywood Broadway building, which was very cool. It's
Yes.
at Hollywood and Vine, which,
Yep.
From a girl from Kansas, I'm like, how did I get here?
You're like, wait a sec. You're
Now,
like looking
like,
around. You're
where
like,
am
is
I?
there a small black dog running around? Like, what is going on?
Happening. And then we worked on the Eastern Colombian building,
Yes.
which is like such a beautiful, iconic LA building.
Yeah.
And during that time, they fixed the clock. We had a big clock lighting, which was
Oh
very,
my gosh,
very
that's
cool.
rad.
Yeah, it was a really cool time to kind of like work with her on those projects.
Like really iconic things.
Yeah, and then she had done a couple of Viceroys, and then that parlayed into doing Viceroy Anguilla,
Yes.
which was my major project for the time that I was there.
So
which
how
was
much
cool.
time were you in Anguilla?
0.
Okay, awesome.
Never got to go.
Okay, so this is insane. So this is so cool because, like, think about everything from that distance is nuts.
But we did build a replica building in downtown LA, inside a building,
Are you
a
serious?
whole unit.
Like, is it kind of what, a lab to like test?
Yeah, as a lab to test the building, because the way you build in Anguilla is different than you build here because
Okay.
of the moisture. And so
Oh.
everything is built in concrete block.
Okay.
And so in order to work out all of the electrical and work out all the doors
You have to
and
put the
windows-
electrical into concrete?
Yes, yeah. So there was like all these technical things
Wow.
that we had to kind of like work out. And so we built a whole 2-bedroom unit inside a warehouse in downtown.
Did you guys get PR for building a 2-bedroom unit as a test? Because that to me is such a sexy story. I'm not going to go back in time and do your PR, but I might just like pretend I did.
Like, I think that
You weren't even attuned to that probably. You're just
I
doing
don't
the work.
think so. I mean, I think she
That's
was.
not typical.
It's
is
not.
it? To do a, or is it to do kind of like a?
I think yes
Okay.
and no. It depends on the project, but because we were building it from so far away.
Yeah, and the special
And there was special
requirements.
Yeah, there was just like things that we could do here, and with her team, she could do it. Like there was budget for it.
Yeah, that's
like when you have
amazing.
budget for it, then you can do everything. Like
And do it right, I guess.
And do it right, and take your time to like kind of like get all those details down. We were doing hanging, benches and like all these things there. So that was like a
That's
really,
so rad.
really fun.
And like
thing
it's
to
so cool because I
experience.
always feel like you have a similar like personal style to her too. I mean, I know I don't like hang with Kelly. Obviously, I don't know Kelly, but like what I've seen her in like photo shoots and stuff, you guys both have this really rad like style that's like, it's not really boho and you jazz it up, but something about your style to me, like I see like a connectivity, which is so
I think so.
interesting.
I was very drawn to her, and I was very drawn to her design. And I think that the similarities between us is that we both admire artists and makers and vintage pieces and history and color and design and how all of that work. I think both of us are aligned in that.
Yes, for
and
sure.
that kind of shows. And then we have the same color hair, but
I know, but it's like, but your personal style, like right now, I can't get over what you're wearing. So I know it's not like a fashion podcast, but we're going to talk a little bit about some of your rings.
But it should be. It's like
it should
fun.
be a freaking fashion podcast because of what you're wearing.
Yeah, thank you.
So you talked a little bit about, and I want to get into the present day, but I just want to pull the through line about like vintage pieces, because that's one thing about your work that I think really speaks to me. Is like your places have a sense of like instant history, or I think the happy place thing is because it's not impersonal. Like everything feels very like happy, and there's also some moments of kind of like really wild abandon to me. But there's also like these things that ground it with like vintage pieces that give something depth versus just like everything white, everything whatever. And so how do you describe like, aside from creating like immersive, environments that are like people's happy places and destinations for that, like how do you layer things so that it doesn't feel overdone, but it's got that like right alchemy? I don't know how.
I think that the word layered is one of the most important things.
Okay.
I think that we do layer in different, like you layer in the environment, and then you layer in the color, and then you layer in the tile, and then you layer in. We try to do a custom light fixture for every project.
Okay. Is that like a signature type thing that you do?
It's becoming a signature,
I love it.
common standard thing to do, and that we create a light fixture for every project.
Like you design it?
We design it, yes.
Okay. Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, which is cool.
Yeah.
And so, for instance, Coffee Dose, we've got the birthday cake, the lucite birthday cake.
It's so amazing.
Which makes the entire space, in my opinion, like
Yes.
it's so cool. And those are, a nod to maybe like 80s disco, kind of like lucite, kind of, or maybe even late 70s or like whatever.
If it's not smoked lucite, you know what
exactly,
I mean? Yeah.
So that's sort of that way. And then for Little Juice, we did this like really beautiful iron with rosette cups that was powder coated in the green. So that's sort of like the
so
nod
rad.
to
That
sort
Little
of like,
Juice is your
like
project
30s,
in
40s.
Michigan. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's very cool. For our Mariner's Mile, we're going to be recreating all the existing light fixtures that were on the building. They've been lobbed off through the years.
Yes.
And so we're recreating the light fixtures there. We're going to do a new light fixture in the staircase.
Oh my gosh.
Be cool. And so I think that
it's layers, and
it's layers.
Is that kind of like the wedding dress that comes out at the end of like a fashion show is like your light fixture? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, that's a good way to say
like,
that.
You know what I'm saying? Because you got
like
layers you're building,
thing.
and then all of a sudden it's like Shazam! Like amazing light fixture.
And I think too, we're really interested in preserving architecture, and we're really interested in preserving history. We're not really interested in scraping and doing things newly. And so even if we are building a brand new spot, we're still thinking about
like honoring
is a good word. Honoring the past and the history of whatever the brand is, whatever the brand can become, if it has some sort of through line for that.
I feel like Lido is a perfect example when you were with Better Shelter and Steve, like of doing that. We're honoring the site, but like having a vision for what could be.
Absolutely.
And and then I think the brand almost, it's interesting because I feel like you're helping to build brands through your work. It's and I do brands not from an interior design perspective, like we build brands, but like from just an idea and the DNA of the people and what their philosophy is, but you're actually like driving brand development and identity through your work, which I think is like, wow. So you have to be like a really amazing like person that has a really feel for the zeitgeist of like what's happening in culture. You have to have a real sense of the community. You have to have interior design chops. You have to be like innovative, creative. You have to know what people psychologically want to feel in a happy place. So it's like all of those things. And then be a brand. I mean, what you're doing is so layered itself. Like the work itself is layered, and then your process has to be so layered.
Absolutely, and I think too, like our clients are coming to us because they're passionate entrepreneurs that want to put something out into the world.
Yes,
and it's our job to sort of like make them look good.
Yeah.
It's like our job to help them create a place inside the community. It's our job to help them bring people into the doors and like really experience what they're trying to sell, really.
Yes.
Like,
Yes, so you're bringing the brand to life for them.
we're bringing to life, yes. And
Which is a big job.
Our clients who allow us to really go wild with
Yes.
the interiors so far have
Yeah.
been very successful.
Well, I would say,
and it has to do too with not only like our work as interior designers, but them as business people and the branding of it all. Like everybody like on the team needs to be cohesive.
Yes.
And I think that we're really good at like keeping that team and keeping it wrangled.
Love it. Which is another skill set that
Another skill set,
I wouldn't
yes.
think of someone in your shoes having to fill, but you do it too.
Yeah, absolutely. And like, for instance, with Lido, I know there was like 2 years when we were under construction where I was just the no person.
Yeah.
No.
That's got to feel great. I mean, I guess you probably don't have a problem with boundary setting. You're probably really good with boundary setting, Amanda, I'm guessing.
I mean, that team was amazing to work with. And obviously, Steve's great, obviously
right,
amazing to work with. But, it's like...
No.
Design can go very off course if allowed. Right.
Totally.
And so I think that having somebody who's, compassionate about the process and able to sort of be the person who can wrangle everybody on the team and say, you know what, this is our vibe.
Like, remember where we started.
This is our focus.
Right.
Remember where we are.
Yep.
Because there's so
many temptations along the way,
design.
probably, to be like, let's just throw that in. Let's do this. And you're like, no.
So let's just like come back to center, focus on what we're really selling here, what we're really creating here, and what vibe we want to feel.
Right.
And
be true to it. So it's very, you said this earlier too, that intentionality. Do you have like a mindfulness practice yourself? Like, I feel like you'd have to have one, or maybe you just do it through your work and it's natural. You just were born with it. But the fact that you can get back to that place every time of center, like, is that something that you're able to do in your personal life too? Or is it really just, because I think it's really admirable to be that focused.
Yeah.
Like, to bring a team back to center every time takes a lot of discipline.
I think that it takes experience.
Yeah.
And I think it takes working in lots of teams on different capacities.
Yeah.
And I think, like, when you have your own business, you find out very quickly how important it is to do things quickly and once, or maybe twice. But that, like, the focus becomes more important because there's a bottom line to your design fees and to your clients' budgets and to all these things. And so being able to stay focused is important in lots of ways.
On every level.
And as far as like my own sanity.
Yeah, I'm like, do you like have a mindfulness practice, or do you just like do cardio? I don't
know. My friend that I've worked with for a very long time, Julie Babin, she's amazing, and she's been part of Common Standard for a long time. She was like, you can just go hard. Like, you just go hard. You don't rest. And like, you can just go and go
that's sometimes what it takes.
And I'm just like, I don't know. It doesn't seem like work to me. Ever.
Yeah, because it's a passion of yours. And listen, you've been doing it since you were, a kid.
Forever. And I love the people that I work with. Yeah. I love being able to be part of all of these projects. Like, I love Coffee Dose. I love going there. And I love all the Jan's health food bars we're doing. And like, and Outpost Kitchen, and like all of these people are like inside this community that we get to like hang out with. And
freaking amazing people.
Like, it doesn't feel like I need to go home and like take a rest.
Because you're loving what you're doing.
Yeah.
And so you've just started talking about these projects, and then I'm like, oh my gosh, I live in like a Common Standard world. So like, I'm just thinking,
my goal.
like literally, like Amanda has created my world, and luckily you're in the business of creating happy places, or else I would be absolutely screwed.
Totally.
So let me just get a handle on this, because I like completely forgot my show notes and like I'm freaking out right now. So Jan's Health Bar, like I remember, I've always liked the food, but like I remember when you first did that, and then now you're doing the second kind of iteration. The expansion has just been crazy, which speaks so much to the power of the brand and what you and Poppy have done together with the brand, right? So Jan's Health Bar. Okay, just taking a minute. Outpost Kitchen.
Outpost Kitchen,
Which I'm
yes.
just like, okay, it's amazing. And by South Coast Plaza, if you guys haven't been, it's like, it's cuckoo.
It's
like,
so fun in there.
So
I just love
amazing.
that restaurant so much.
I mean,
that's one of my favorite back bars that we created because it reminds me of my prom dress in the 80s.
Was that the inspo for it?
Yes. And I will not let my mom throw that prom
Stop
dress away.
it.
She's like, come on, really? And I'm
No.
like, yeah, just put it back in the closet.
You're like, I need
Fine.
it. It's inspiration. We're writing
It's
it off. We'll
inspiration.
write off the $50 you spent on it.
Yeah, but-
and then Tiny Tooth, which I don't have little kids anymore, but if I did,
Yeah, Tiny
they would
Tooth
for
is
sure go to
special.
Tiny Tooth because of that whole kind of like speakeasy treasure prize cabinet.
Yep.
Because my kids were just digging around in a beat up old treasure chest at their dentist. Now we're like opening
I
up
had
this
nothing.
speakeasy and we're like looking at like apothecary jars with all sorts of like, and so I would imagine as a kid, it feels kind of like a Willy Wonka moment.
Oh my gosh, I can't even imagine being a kid.
Right?
In there. I mean, I would just.
And is that what you went for? Like, I want it to feel like I wanted to feel as a kid. Like, it has to have that kid magic, I would assume.
Yeah. I mean, I wanted to feel magical for sure.
It for
And
sure
I wanted
does.
to feel immersive.
Yes.
And I think too, working with Dr. Andrew and Dr. Marcus, they are such
They seem like visionaries.
special people, and that they work with these little kids in their teeth. And going to the dentist can be a scary
Stressful.
thing when you're little.
For sure. There's a lot
And
of
so-
special dentists that just like specialize in, making kids less anxious.
Yeah, and I think that like the colors that we chose are very calming, even though they're extremely bright colors.
Yeah, but blue and yellow.
But whenever you kind of like go in there, you don't feel like they're
No, they're not in your face.
overpowering.
No.
It all kind of like works together.
Yeah, and I feel like you've also done things that are, to me, really subtle, but have really changed the landscape of my daily life. And I'm so excited about Mariner's Mile. Is it called Mariner's Square? What's the
It's called
official name?
Mariners Mile Square.
Okay.
Yeah.
So basically, for people that are local, PCH between Tustin and Riverside is that on the north side of the street. It's the brown kind of wood buildings where I got my hair done for prom, and now it's finally going to look different than for now. It has looked like until you're getting involved. It's
Until
looked
now.
like the 1987 prom at CDM. But so you're doing that. But I feel like the more subtle things you've done, but have just as much impact for me, are like where Irvine Ranch Market is. Did you do like the coffee doughs? Did you do some of that rework, or was that the white?
We were kind of like in the conversation of that. Like I know the owners through
Yes,
Coffee Dose, of
right.
course, and
So I kind
and they
of
kind
felt
did
a
that
little bit of your
renovation.
touch there.
Yeah, and I think that like since we've done Lido, Lido was
Well,
such a
that's the thing
catalyst for
everything. So I'm
for
thinking that the
everything,
cosmetic
so-
hair building, like down at CRC Marinas, like on where Jamboree and Bayside intersect.
Yeah, so Bayside Park, we renamed, rebranded, and renovated those two buildings.
I mean, that to me has been huge because I'm a big fan of going down to Bubble Island for my
Yeah.
walks with my dog.
Yeah.
And I always thought those buildings had such great potential, but I was like,
They're great.
they're great. And so I knew I saw the through line because I think the Irvine Ranch thing is a little bit of a takeoff of kind of, like you said, of your work at Lido and your
for
work
sure.
at Bayside Square or Plaza. But it's so interesting how, like, I can't wait for the next thing. And I want to go up to Marina Del Rey because what
Yeah.
you've done for the Marina Del Rey Hotel
It's so fun up there.
is so fun.
Yeah.
And I see evidence of, I think, like flea market finds in there too,
Oh, for
just
sure.
with the layering piece that we're talking about.
100%, yeah.
So I don't want to give away your trade secrets, but I'm like assuming that you basically go to Long Beach Antiques Market sometimes, or
Every
maybe,
month.
okay.
Yeah.
Are there other places that you, again, like I can't go there and recreate what you find because you've got your eye and it's like you're finding the gems, but
Yeah.
is it like Rose Bowl? I mean, where do you go?
Yeah, I mean, I used to go to Rose Bowl
Okay.
a lot. I love the Rose Bowl.
Seems like a lot.
I do go to Long Beach every month, pretty much every month. I go to Long Beach every month a lot to find things, but also for social aspect. Like all of our friends are
See all
there.
your people.
All the
That's
people
fun.
are there. That's
Yeah.
the fun. That's the most part about it. Like
I love it.
It's so cool.
It's like your creative community is there and your friends are there.
Absolutely, it's so cool. But then there's like places in Long Beach, like Urban Americana. That's kind of
Is
a
it on
good friend
4th?
It's not on
No.
4th, but it's nearby.
Okay.
So I mean, big kind of like flea market or antique malls
I
or
love it.
eBay or or friends, Facebook Marketplace. I just
Really? I mean, like it's crazy, right? The stuff that's out there.
I just bought a sofa from a really good friend of mine who posted on Facebook
that's
Marketplace,
rad.
and I was like, wait a minute, you're
Yeah,
getting
that's
rid of
mine.
that?
Yeah, you're like, mine. It helps to know people with good taste. Obviously, your friends have good taste.
Totally,
That's not
they
shocking.
do. They absolutely do. So, I mean, I think that, as far as trade secrets, like,
Yeah.
we find everything everywhere.
Yeah. So you're always looking.
Always looking.
So-
yes. And we have a big warehouse in Costa Rica.
I saw. Oh my gosh! And didn't you have to just clean it out recently, or you were reorganizing it? I'm
Yeah.
like, I would love to go in there. That for me feels like a treasure trove. Like I
Yeah.
think I would lose my mind if I got to go in those
Well, we're
in
going
that
to try to do
space.
some fun things in the warehouse and kind of like have some parties and some things.
That's
so I'll invite
awesome.
you. But-
Because didn't you just? And everyone heard she's going to invite me. Did you hear that? Okay, good. J.K. Lowell, but not really. And are you just moved offices? So
We
your
did,
studio? Are you still West Side, Costa Mesa?
We are.
Okay.
We just moved one building over.
Okay. So you're in Monrovia,
So
or
we're still in Monrovia.
Okay.
Still over
Awesome.
there, which I love that area so
I do
much.
too. It feels like that's where things are happening. Like exciting things are bubbling up.
Yeah, I think exciting things have always bubbled up over there.
Totally. Like
there's
the
so
surf,
much,
action sports
the
stuff.
lore of everything over there. Just like living inside that it's awesome.
I love it.
Of course.
Yeah.
And like knowing so many people in the industry,
Well, and you're bringing it all forward too into this like next phase of
Yeah,
like you're still
fun.
creating.
Yeah. Yeah, so we're going to have our office, our warehouse office is over there,
Okay.
and then we're going to have an office in Mariners Mile Square, too.
Oh, yeah, you must. That's so great. That's so cool.
so
I
that's
love
so-
it. I'm so happy to see you growing and
I
like
know,
doing
it's
all the
so
things.
Cool. Yeah, so it's fun.
I mean, and my last two questions are, one, I want to talk about how you stay inspired. And then next I have to cover some wardrobe items because I can't let you leave. So how do you stay inspired? Obviously you love what you do, so you're not burning out, but like, how do you get new ideas? Is it like traveling? Is it like magazines?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's all of that. I think it's traveling, and I think that it's magazines. I think it's books. I think it's the internet. I think it's
Yeah.
Pinterest. Like, Pinterest is such a big tool for all of us right now.
Yeah.
I think that recently, I'm most inspired by my just amazing group of friends.
Yeah.
And I spoke on a panel recently at Connecting Things.
I saw. Congrats.
at
That's
Rogue.
awesome.
And I think, having that community is super inspiring. And
Yes.
just to hear everybody, talk about how they started their businesses and what they do and like all of the things that go along with, being an entrepreneur and being a designer
Yes.
in this space. That's very inspiring to me. My friend Joe just opened the restaurant.
I know, which we're getting to do the PR for, which for a kitchen table, which is so awesome.
Yes, it's so
I
cool.
love
I mean,
it.
she's amazing. Like,
And did you help with that space?
I did not, no.
Okay.
But it looks amazing.
It's such a
Such
vibe.
good job.
It
And-
reminds me of like creating a happy place, right?
Oh my gosh, yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah.
The food that she created over there was so cool,
So
and
amazing.
awesome and healthy, and so I think that like inside our little like friendship group,
Like you're incubating all sorts of cool ideas all the time.
yes, absolutely. Like and it's what we talk about. It's not, we talk about what everybody is doing
Right.
and like
And celebrate it.
and celebrating that and like, what are you doing? Like my friend Jo, who's a stylist, she's always doing something
Oh my gosh.
creative with fashion,
Yes,
know,
and
and then
so-
Meredith with the jewelry and like
Yeah, so
I
you're
just
wearing
think-
some Meredith. Are you
I'm
wearing some Joe
Meredith. Wearing
stuff?
some Joe, like she.
Can we talk
goes
about
with
Joe
me.
for a hot minute?
Joe's amazing.
So like from your current outfit,
Yes.
like did you already have the tie?
So I found the tie. I think I found the tie with Joe.
Okay.
Yeah, and I found this vintage with Joe.
Okay.
Here in Costa Mesa.
Oh my gosh, I love her style.
The shoes came from Joe.
Oh my gosh, and she's wearing these amazing clogs with a heel, with like a kitten or a stiletto heel.
They're
like
quite
they're
amazing.
amazing. So like, how
Yeah.
does she just do this for everybody? I mean, I follow her on Instagram. It looks like you could,
Yeah, she says personally style.
Yeah.
For clients, yes.
and like, so has she helped you develop your style, or did you? Because it seems like you've always had a style to me. I don't know how long you've known her.
Yeah, I mean, I think what she has done for me is kind of like pulled me out of my shell. Like
Okay.
sometimes I can like really get in there. And
Yeah.
like, I don't know.
Is she pushing you a little bit?
I think she's pushing me out of it, and like I think that she's like helping me kind of put things together. I'm better with, in my opinion, I'm better with interiors than I am dressing myself.
Okay.
In a lot of ways,
Okay.
even though I can do it.
Yeah, well, you definitely can do it. Yeah.
But I think that she's like, you should wear these, like, the jewelry and like
Yes.
like putting the things on and making the effort and like really like bringing the style together.
I love it.
As a cohesive look.
Yes.
I think is what she brings to the table.
I
Which is
love
amazing,
it.
Right.
And we're going to do in the show notes, I'm going to put her Insta in there so people can like understand who we're talking about and
my
get
gosh,
excited about
absolutely.
it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
sure. Yeah.
And then with your rings, I was talking about your
my
rings.
rings.
And I was like, tell me about Meredith Kahn, because like, you're like, you know Meredith. I'm like, I wish I knew Meredith like that. I'm just like, I know
awesome.
her work.
Yeah.
But like, how do you know her and what speaks to you about her work?
So Meredith and I met at Hotcakes through Tanya.
Oh my gosh, love it. And did you
Paul.
did you redo the redo of Hotcakes, or who
No,
did that?
Steve.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
Yeah. So, but she had a pop-up there and invited me to come over, and so Meredith was there with
It's just
Bea
amazing
and Philip
piece.
from Maxine.
Yes. The hats.
They do the hats, yeah. And so it just became like this really cool sort of like friendship.
I love it.
And so she does this ring.
She's so talented.
And a bunch of other things.
And
that
then you
they
have
do.
some of your dad's work. Did you
Yeah.
participate in any of these projects as a kid? These rings?
These, I think they was too little.
Okay.
But I've always had them. They're very cool. This one's also Meredith, my dad. And then these three are vintage.
I love them. And that's your dad? Your dad did the bracelet?
And my dad did the bracelet, yes. Yeah,
That's so rad.
Yeah. I don't know. Although I think she's just inspired me to put it all on.
Yeah. Which I think is
Yeah.
huge.
It is huge.
Because
yes.
you're making people put it all on in environments
Yes.
that you create.
Yeah.
So maybe it's like we all do, right? Like, every therapist needs a therapist. Like
Yes.
every, designer probably could use another person to push them creatively, whether it's in like what they're wearing,
For sure.
the project or whatever. We all need that kind of like, and it sounds like you've built this really great community.
Such a great community
Yeah.
of women and men too, but
Yeah.
but a lot of really, really creative women and like friendships and just
I
like
love it.
Yeah, it's really special, and I'm so grateful to have had the history that
Yeah.
I've had, and to have, my time with Better Shelter kind of like set the platform
Yes.
for my community here.
Yes.
And to have grown through that.
Yeah.
And
Into Common Standard.
It's been really.
And I'll never
Really
forget
great.
when we were sitting, I think like it was Kit Coffee or around there. We were sitting somewhere and
Yeah.
like we were talking about Common Standard. And I'm
Yeah.
like, that's the coolest name. It was like right when you were starting, I feel like. It was like at the beginning.
It was at the very, very
Right?
beginning, yes.
And I'm so happy for you.
Thank you.
And so proud of you.
Thank you.
And just thank you for this conversation today, because it's
course.
super, like I said, I'm just in this business to
Yeah.
talk to cool people. And
Yeah,
so
thank you for
check
putting
that
it
box
together. It's
for
so
the
cool
day.
that you're doing this.
And I also just want to thank you for like leaning into our community here. So you're like not only supporting like women and entrepreneurs, of all genders who have dreams that want to see them come to life and embodied, but also like other, creators that you're helping to inspire. And they're all bubbling up cool stuff for our community, right? So that's
for
like
sure.
that's a huge ripple effect. But also you're creating these like immersive, happy place environments for us in this community
Yeah.
that we can feel proud of, that we can commune at, that we can enjoy every day.
Yeah.
And I just want to thank you for like really, you said your mom had a loom in your house growing up, but I feel like you're really helping to like build the fabric of our community. You're doing that in your way with your loom,
With
as
my
it
loom,
were.
yes,
You know what I
I'm
mean?
creating that.
And I really appreciate that as someone that lives
thank
here
you.
and is, just so excited about what you're creating.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
I appreciate that. Thank
So
you.
thank you for being here today. You're
course.
awesome.
Thank you.
I reserve the right to have you come back
Yes.
and do maybe with Joe and just do a fashion only segment.
Oh,
TBD.
we could definitely do
yeah,
that. Yes,
I'm very
absolutely. I
much
would love
intrigued. So that'll be for next time. But for
Okay.
now, thank you.
Thank you so much.
All right. Take care.
Thank you.